everyone. Let me introduce myself since this is my first video. My name is Rudy Venter. I'm from South Africa. I'm a keen nature and landscape, primary landscape photographer, and I reside in the Karoo area of South Africa, a semi-desert area. Yes, my plan this morning was to come and shoot a sunrise, but unfortunately no clouds. So what I think I'll do is I'll just shoot some trees. There's some really interesting trees and rock formations here, some more intimate shots, and yeah, maybe we'll get some clouds in the next half an hour. Things can change very quickly here, but for now, yes, welcome to my channel, first video or first serious video, and I hope to produce some more in the future, and with a bit of luck a couple of you will subscribe. Let's see. I'm going to be hiking up a little hill. I'm about 3 kilometers away from home. I'm really fortunate to live very close to the wilderness area, and I would love to show you this area and what makes it so beautiful, even though it's arid and semi-desert, and a lot of people will miss the forests. The only forest we have here is a forest of rocks and little trees. Well, I was hoping for a bit of a sunrise this morning. Well, the sunrise we have, but very little clouds, unfortunately. Only a tiny little bit on the horizon there, which you can hopefully see on the video. Not really impressive. So I'll most likely end up taking some more intimate shots this morning of a couple of plants and trees, some really beautiful trees around here. And with a bit of luck, we might get a few more clouds later. If not all is wasted. at least I can decide on a few places for the next shoot. Here we have the actual image that I did capture of the sunrise. I tried to capture the tiny little clouds that did actually appear on the horizon. First you'll see the unprocessed image, the raw file out of the camera, and then I'm showing you the image as processed in Lightroom. I lifted the shadows quite substantially, dropped the highlights a bit, added a bit of saturation, just a tiny bit, and some clarity, and also cropped the image quite a bit. The Sony camera that I'm using does allow you to really lift shadows quite substantially, and that helps in a case like that, like this. Not a fantastic image, but better than nothing. I actually do like this particular shot. I think there's some merit in taking this photo, and it'll become part of my unique tree collection, tree trunk collection. There's actually quite a few shots to be made out of this one. So before the light changes, I'm going to take a couple of shots. That's if the camera doesn't go into sleep mode all the time. And then I will show you the results. Here we have the first image that I captured of the tree trunk. First I'm showing you the raw file out of the camera as captured, and then the process file. I didn't do much to it. I lifted the highlights a bit. It was a bit dull. Cropped the image slightly, added a tiny bit of extra saturation, and I cloned out a twig, a little branch in the bottom left hand corner. Other than that, the image is as shot. I think here's another potential shot. Very interesting root system that we have here. I like the curves and the way it actually makes a bow and then goes down into the ground. A lot of detail in this photo. Let me take it before the sun gets even worse. It's really rising now quickly. 1/20th of a second, f10, ISO 100. It's a 24 lens at 24 millimeters. And I'm shooting with a 2-second delay, and there she goes in the bag. Hopefully I can show you the results of this in the video. Here we have the second image of the tree trunk. As you'll see, I framed it slightly closer in just to show the top, the interesting branch, or actually a root I suppose, that goes into the ground. I'm showing you the raw file out of the camera, and then the processed one. Again, lifted the highlights a bit, dropped the shadows ever so tiny bit of extra saturation, a little bit of extra cropping, and cleaned up the branches on the top left hand corner that were interfering a bit and didn't really form part of the image. I'm quite happy with this image. I think this one will maybe not make the portfolio, but at least it'll go into my trees collection. And here we have the final image of the morning. Just a tighter frame of the particular branch, the top one, that I like so much. I'm showing the raw file again first out of the camera, and then you will see my process version. Lifted the highlights a bit. I want to bring out the whites that is so characteristic of this particular tree's branches and trunks, and I dropped the shadows a bit, the background shadows specifically, and I cropped it slightly tighter than out of the camera. Other than that, not much done. In spite of the fact that I was hoping to shoot the sunrise this morning and that didn't work out well, I'm really quite happy with this image and the previous two images, and they will eventually form part of my collection that I'm working on. everyone, that's not exactly what I planned for this morning. I was hoping for a bit of a light show. The prediction did say that we'll have be partially cloudy this morning, at least some clouds, but as you saw, very little. Actually towards the north there are a few of them now building, but I don't think anything will come out of it because of the sun. It's going to be very hot today. Will probably be somewhere between 39 and 41 degrees centigrade. So it's going to be a scorcher. I'll spend my day inside editing video and looking at the photos of this morning and planning the next trip. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll join me again in the future. I'm hoping to do this on a more regular basis now. This is new to me. As you'll probably notice, this is the first video of this kind on my channel. If you like what you see, please subscribe. I will try my best to show you the beautiful area that I live in and the beautiful country, South Africa. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Good morning everyone, thanks for joining me on another karoo photography photo trip. I'm heading out to take some photos of shepherd's trees this morning in one of my favorite spots. There are a few clouds in the sky, so I'm hoping for a bit of color. Let's see what we can produce today. We're getting some slight color this morning in the clouds, better than nothing. My composition is pretty simple: a shepherd's tree in the foreground, another smaller one in the background with some mountains in the distance. I think I'll take a wide shot first and then I will see if I can get a better composition by cropping it a bit. Yes, I like this slightly better. It's still very dark, so I'm not really getting anything in the foreground. I might end up doing a couple of bracketed exposures just to get enough light in the foreground. But yeah, the color is already fading in the sky, but I'm hoping as the sun rises over the horizon to get another flash of light. We often get a few minutes of extra light. Yes, I'm definitely going to have to exposure bracket this, maybe plus minus 2 stops. It's the exposure without any compensation. That's the exposure with +1 stop, and the exposure with +2 stops. And just to make sure the foreground is okay, I'm going to go up to +3 stops. The sky is blown out, but I will merge the images. And then just on the other side again to make sure, I think I'll go to -1 stop to try and capture absolutely the last bit of color in the sky. Here's the file out of the camera, the raw file. You'll notice that the foreground is quite dark, so is the tree, and the highlights are quite bright in the sky. So my first processed version, I lifted the foreground, the dark foreground, dropped the highlights in the background, and cropped it ever so slightly. This is better, but I'm still not happy with it. So what I decided to do is to lift the tree trunk a bit, because to the human eye it's actually quite a bit brighter than the photo. So in the final version you'll see I simply lifted the whites, brightened the shadows on the tree trunk, and I think it's a far more pleasing version. And a little bit of color in the sky, the clouds, it definitely helps. Seems like we're not going to get any better light in the sky this morning, unfortunately. Maybe just a tiny bit of light on the horizon. Sometimes the light show lasts long. Today the light show maybe lasted 5 minutes. But hopefully there was an image in there worthwhile capturing. And while this is all happening, the mosquitoes are eating me. With the sun now almost above the horizon, the clouds did get a bit of extra light, which is great. I think I'm going to do another maybe 4-shot bracket here, just to make sure that I capture both the foreground and the highlights in the sky. It's -1 stop. That is just as metered. No compensation. +1 stop to get the foreground. That is +2 stops. And just to make sure the full foreground is there, +3 stops. You could also do automatic exposure bracketing, but I actually prefer to set the compensation per shot. It actually works better for me. And we're now shooting right into the sun, just above the horizon, but I think I've got a reasonable composition here. I'll be doing another bracket shot. What I normally do for the first one of a bracket, I just put my hand or something in front of the lens, so when I look at the images I know that's the start of a new bracket. So that's 0 exposure compensation. Then I'll be going up to +1 stop to get more detail in the foreground, +2 stops, and then finally on the plus side, +3 stops. Foreground is still pretty dark, but I should be able to lift the shadows a bit. And then on the other side I'll go to -1. Okay, -1. Sun is in my eyes, I can't see what I'm doing. And I will go to -2. And finally, probably not necessary, but I'll go to -3 just to get any detail in the sun. You'll see, all you can actually see there is a tiny light spot where the sun is. Here we have the raw file of the image just captured after I did the combining of the different exposures. I quite like it with the sun just peeking out, but the image is a bit flat, very low in contrast. So what I did, as you can see here in the developed version or the process version, I just upped the contrast slightly, and it definitely looks a bit better. Also dropped exposure a tiny bit. It was a bit too light for my liking. This is the image I'm seeing on the drone. Not spectacular, but at least a bit of color in the sky. And it's a beautiful morning, other than for the mosquitoes. Well, it seems like the light show didn't last very long this morning. Maybe in total the clouds lit up for 5 to maybe 10 minutes. And then there was another small light show, short light show, just after the sun rose above the horizon. I managed to get two compositions, same tree, two compositions. One with the tree in the background to the left of it, underneath it, which I think is quite the classic shot. And then in the second composition, I actually tried to hide the tree in the background behind the main tree. I don't know how successful that was. The only way that could work is because the shepherd's tree's got a very light bark, very light colored trunk. So maybe that'll stand out compared to the dark background of the dark green tree in the background. But either way, interesting tree. Second time that I've shot this tree. The first time it was more a foggy sunrise with some clouds in the background, which you've probably seen in the previous video. But I'm relatively happy with this. And there are one or two other trees here that I just want to investigate this morning. So next time that I rush out here like this morning, I'm not going to have to run around. I can go straight to the trees. I've noticed two other trees here from the air that actually looks like they have potential. So I'm going to take a walk around. I do have a final composition here of the same tree, making use of the side light from the sun just peeking out behind a few broken clouds. I'm hoping that the trunk of the tree specifically would be the point of interest in this case, and the few little clouds in the background, the few layers of clouds, will just break up that ugly blue sky. 1/20th of a second, f13, 2-second timer. I just wish those clouds in the background had some more color, but yeah, we don't always get what we wish. Here we have the final image of the tree. I actually quite like this composition. The bush in front, bottom left, with the white branch on it, actually points towards the tree, and the tree actually stands out quite nicely, I think, because of the white bark, and also the light on the left hand side of the tree, the nice warm light coming from the sun that is just out of the frame and the top left hand. I didn't do much to this image. I just lifted the shadows a tiny bit, dropped the highlights a bit, and tiny bit of extra saturation. Overall, I think I like this image the best of all the images this morning. I didn't actually plan on coming out shooting this morning. The weather prediction said no chance of any clouds, so I was planning on doing some editing. But just before 5 o'clock, I looked out and I saw some interesting clouds, so I thought, well, make use of them while you can. So I rushed out here, came straight to this specific tree because I've shot it in the past and I know it is interesting with sunrise. And I think I did manage to get one or two images that are probably worthwhile. At least it was worthwhile coming out here, and in spite of the mosquitoes, it was fun. I really appreciate you guys joining me, and I hope that you will like this video enough to give me a thumbs up. It helps with some of the algorithms, the way YouTube actually shows videos when you search for them. And also, if you subscribe to the channel, you'll see any future videos that I release. Got a few planned. I've been doing a bit of scouting over the last day or two, and there's a different area in the mountains that I want to shoot pretty soon. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Stay happy, stay healthy. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.
Anywhere you go, give it on. Anywhere you say, anywhere.
Well, good morning everyone. Thanks for joining me again. Haven't made a video for a while. Rather cold this morning, and I hope there's enough light that you can see me. This morning I'm looking for flowers, specifically aloe flowers. We've had small amounts, but regular rain through the winter. This is now late winter here in South Africa. So the flowers are in bloom. They're actually quite beautiful, the best I've seen. So thanks for joining me. Let's see what we can find. Beautiful flowers, a whole bunch of them, so much character. The light is still soft. There are no clouds this morning unfortunately, but the light is still soft. The sun is not above the horizon yet, so chance to take a couple of photos. This particular case shooting at about 24 millimeters, f14, ISO 100, and I'm doing a bit of exposure compensation, slightly overexposing just to get all the details in the shadows. I like this composition as well. The beautiful aloes in the mid and the foreground. There's also just to the right of the middle of the image, you can just see a rock with some lichen on it. And then the greener bushes behind it. And the beautiful flowers in between, of course. I would have loved some clouds in the sky, but not today. Maybe in a few days time. Fortunately, these flowers last quite long. There's still new flowers forming, and it's already been going on for almost 2 weeks. Here's another composition I like. Move slightly to the right from the previous one, but I love the very prominent aloe just off center on the right hand side, with the beautiful flowers and also the leaves. And then to balance it on the left hand side there's another one, and again the bushes towards the back. Clouds in the sky would have been great. Then I would have actually taken the photo at a slightly lower angle. I would have dropped the camera maybe another 30 centimeters, but at the moment the sky is boring and featureless, so aloes will feature in this image. Composition I like. The aloe in the foreground is not actually, the closest one to the camera is not actually flowering yet. It's just starting to flower. But what I do like here is the open pieces and just the main aloe in the middle flowering. So your eye will immediately focus on that aloe. I can just show you, if I zoom in a bit, you can see. And then of course the bush top right hand on the third. And I think that actually helps as well to break the very empty sky. sun is almost above the horizon, so I've got to move quickly. The light's going to get harsh very quickly. So this might be my final composition. I love this aloe bending towards the sun in the middle of the image, clinging on the side of this rocky hill. And then the one on the bottom right hand corner, it's also special. It's the leaves are slightly darker, reddish, pinkish color. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Well everyone, I think that's basically it for this morning. I hope you enjoyed the quick walk through my aloe fields of aloe. It's rather special. It might be a few years before they bloom like this again, but thanks for joining me again. If you're interested in any prints or of any other images, please contact me. The details are below. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. I would appreciate that. It helps me to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Keep well and keep safe. Cheerio. Well, good morning everyone. Thanks for joining me again on my channel. This morning I'm out hunting flowers, specifically speckworm flowers. I haven't seen them flower the last 2 years, or not really flower the last 2 years, but with the rain we've had recently, lots of them are now in flowers. The sides of the hills are covered with flowering plants. Unfortunately not easy to get to because they are on the sides of the hills with lots of rocks and no real paths or anything to climb. But I'll see what I can find. I'll also use the drone to try and get a bit closer to some of those. But for now, thanks for joining me. Let's see if I can capture some nice images before the light gets too harsh. Before I try and head into the hills, I'm first going to see what I can find here on the flat area around the area where I parked, which is probably about 2 kilometers away from the closest road. I managed to find a little track to drive quite far into this quite wild area, which helps. You don't have to carry the equipment that far, especially if there's a bit of time pressure due to the light changing so quickly. But yes, I'm exploring here. Beautiful green, exceptionally green, and then of course these patches of pink from the flowers. I've already found one composition here that I might be able to use. So let's see if I can find a composition that works with the light, the limited light I've got, and also maybe get something for the foreground interest. There's a cactus here potentially that'll work. Just look how beautiful. Small little plant. This particular one is not exactly a huge specimen, but it is in full flower, and in front of it there's a cactus also flowering. There's actually a cactus almost inside the plant that might also be able, or I might be able to use that as part of the image. But I just wanted to show you the general area here. Unfortunately, blue skies in that direction, which is north. But since I'm going to be concentrating more on the plants today, maybe I won't have to include too much sky. Towards the east, there are some clouds. It's just after sunrise, so that at least helps a bit. I think this could potentially work. I'm just going to set up the camera and try and get the angle. I'm not sure if I want to have that cactus in the foreground separated off to the right hand side, or do I move around completely and maybe take it from the other side and get it in the bottom left hand corner. This might actually work better, but the problem is there's another little plant in the foreground here. I might have to work around that, and I can't go any further back where I'm staying at the moment. I'm with my back against a rather thorny cactus. I can't even move a centimeter further back. I think unfortunately from this angle, this cactus in front is a bit disturbing. I need to move slightly towards my right, but that has another complication. Then another speckworm comes into the field of view. Of course, the alternative might be, I must try that, maybe move slightly to the right, but try and shoot in portrait format. Let's see what that looks like. Well, this could maybe work slightly better. My only concern really is I wish I had a slightly wider lens. I only have 24mm with me, but at least in photo mode it'll be slightly wider than this. So let me see if I can get this composition to work without including too much unnecessary objects on the right hand side of the image. Yes, I do believe this actually does work. I just managed to get enough space on the right hand side as well to get this image to work, and there's even a bit of interest in the sky now. A couple of clouds have rolled in from the east or southeast, I should say, so that helps a bit, just not just clear skies. But I'm going to see if I can move slightly further to the right, maybe just another few millimeters. Oh yes, I actually quite like this, and I managed to get a bit of light on the subject as well. A little bit of light just broke through some holes in the clouds, and it lit up the foreground beautifully. I really like this. I'm not sure if there's any way I could make it better. Maybe a few more clouds would have been nice, but I think I'm going to have to work with what I've got here. But the smallest little speck boom around has actually got some of the most beautiful flowers, and of course the little cactus in the foreground really adds some beautiful foreground interest. Well, I've moved about 90 degrees around that particular spec boom now, but I don't think this side is as pleasant. It doesn't have the foreground interest of that small little cactus, but still shows the flowers beautifully. So this is more a shot for my documentation than anything that would end up in a portfolio or probably even end up in this video. I'm taking a slow stroll up this little hill towards the area where there are quite a few of these trees flowering. So not sure if I'll find anything. Every now and then the light breaks through. That's quite beautiful, but in between it's also rather flat. Well, not only do we have the spec boom, but some of the other plants around here are also quite gorgeous. So I mustn't just concentrate on the one thing. Looking back towards the west, with some sun now on the mountain in the distance, also quite nice. Here we have a rather nice specimen of the spec boom as well. Again, not a huge one, but since they normally flower only at the top of the tree, if you get a huge one, it's very difficult to get close to the flowers because they're far away. And the smaller ones like these that have been eaten by the animals, so they kind of stunted a bit, the flowers are actually easier within reach. It's interesting, this one, the color of the flowers is slightly lighter than the others. Not sure why that is, but now just to find a composition, it's another story. I might have to, I can't really go around too far in this direction. I was thinking maybe getting it so that I can have some mountains in the background, but unfortunately again I can't move too far or far enough backwards here because there's a cactus behind me that is limiting me even at 24 millimeters. It's going to be difficult to get the whole thing in. I should have brought a wider lens. I might just go and fetch a wider lens. Just taking a stroll towards some more trees, flowering trees. Gotta just watch my step. There's some big boulders here, and you want to look up and look at the scenery and look at the plants, but yes, you've got to actually look at your feet, otherwise you end up on your nose planted. Well, here's another specimen, also quite nice, but I don't think it's in full flower yet. I can see not all the buds have opened up yet, so it'll probably only peak in a few days' time, but that's great. More reason to come back soon and see if I can find anything else. quite interesting here. Quite a few aloes as well, and a couple of these Noorveld cacti. I must remember this spot because when it's flowering season for the aloes, it could be quite beautiful, this little spot. So some interesting rocks around, bit of a hill in the background. Of course, at a different angle we'll have some mountains in the background. So a spot to be saved on the GPS, to be returned to probably September, October, because that's roughly the time that the aloes flower, depending on the rain. Well, with this camera in video mode and the lens at 24mm, I can't really show you the image here that I'm trying to capture, but I can tell you that in the foreground we have some cactuses as well. So I'm going to try and include that, maybe even into a vertical composition, with some nice clouds in the background. Something along these lines, but of course just a bit wider, I think could work. I wish the clouds had slightly more interest. They're kind of dull and grey at the moment in this particular image, but maybe I can get some detail out of them. Unfortunately, the image is a bit messy. Can't really get enough separation. If I drop lower, then the cactuses move up into the image. If I go higher, they do move away, but then the shepherd's tree is against the background of the hill in the distance, and there's no separation, so it doesn't really work. But it's definitely a tree to note for future reference. Maybe I can shoot it under with a sunset rather than a sunrise and get the angle slightly different. And of course, if there's fog or anything in the background, to just get rid of the hill in the background, that would be really gorgeous, but that doesn't happen often in this place. Taking a stroll, see if there's maybe one or two more interesting specimens. Here's another area with at least two flowering trees and quite a few aloes around. Let me just investigate here. There's maybe something to be found composition wise here. Oh, these aloes are going to be gorgeous when it's their flowering season. But that's what, 10 months away from now. long distance planning. Here's another beautiful small little one. Again, today the tiny ones seem to be the ones that attract my attention. It's got a couple of cacti around it, and then of course it's got a aloe. Unfortunately, this particular aloe is not in pristine condition. You might be able to see, I think a couple of animals have taken bites out of it, which is quite unfortunate. If it was a more pristine specimen, it would have been really nice. So I'm not sure this is going to work, unfortunately, unless I can go completely to the other side and use a different aloe as a foreground, one that's a bit further away. Might end up having to focus stack a bit. Now if we can only find a spot where I can, maybe something like this. Maybe something like this. Let me have a look if I can find the image here. I'm thinking maybe something along these lines. Maybe slightly closer. Not sure how much sky I should include. There is a bit of interest in the sky. But maybe something along these lines. Unfortunately, the foreground interest is rather large compared to the background, so it's difficult to decide which one is the main subject. I might end up making the aloe in the foreground the main subject and just use the flowering speckboom in the background as background interest. But let's see if I can find the image here. The light is still actually quite gorgeous, just filtered through the clouds. Every now and then it gets a bit brighter. side light from the left hand side. So yes, interesting composition, not normally something I would pick. Normally I want the main subject in the midground or the background to be larger than the foreground, but like I said just now, maybe it would work with the main subject actually being the aloe. Now of course if the aloe was flowering, but you'll never get the aloe flowering the same time as the spec boom, because that's about what, 8 months, 6 to 8 months apart, depending on from which direction you look. But yes, and I don't think it's going to work to try and do a composite for that amount of time. Things change too much. Of course, grass grows in the foreground and everything changes over that amount of time. So I'll have to settle with one image with the aloe flowering and one image with the spec boom flowering. Maybe in a few months' time we can compare the two. At an even wider composition, of course even wider than what you can see now, and I think that would be actually quite nice if we could get some color in the sky. So maybe on a morning where there's color in the sky, this could really work. Then I use both the cactus, the aloe and the spec boom as simply foreground interest, and then the sky would be where the color is and where the real main subject of the image is. Really worth a try. So I'm going to be back over the next few mornings, I think. There might be some potential here in a backlit image as well. At the moment we do have some interest in the sky, or some clouds. They lit up, but the sun is actually out and it's now right behind this tree. But I'm not really seeing the colors. These flowers are not really, they're so small, and I think they're quite dense in the sense that the light won't shine through them. So we're not quite going to get that backlit scenario. But then again, having said that, look at that. Look at that. There's an image there, maybe shot at f4 or f2.8. Let me give it a quick try. Well, it's a shame about all those sticks sticking out in the background. If there was some separation, this would have been a nice backlit image. But maybe I can shoot it at, well, this lens I can go down to f4 to try and get the background out of focus. Well everyone, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I think I managed to capture one or two nice images of these gorgeous trees and their flowers. They do flower for a while, so I probably have maybe a week or 10 days left to come back again to see maybe if I can get better conditions with some color in the sky. That would be nice. But yes, I really appreciate you watching all this way. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. If you want more details about me and my photography, have a look at the description below. There's an email address there as well. You can contact me. I do produce limited edition prints, normally from 1 or 2 images out of a video, if they are good images. They are printed on high quality paper, and they are serialized and signed by me, so they're part of a collection. I only normally do 25 prints of any image. Some of them I go as low as 10. So if you are interested, please contact me. Thanks for watching. Till next time, stay safe and stay happy. Good morning everyone, welcome back to my channel on this rather grey and cloudy morning, which is rather abnormal for this area. But I'm not going to try and shoot a sunrise this morning. It's already too late anyway, and there's going to be no sunrise and probably no sunset tonight. But I've got a different plan today. I want to see if I can get some images of wildflowers. It's late spring, early summer here, and we've had a bit of rain, roughly 10 millimeters of rain. So I know some of the plants are starting to flower. So rather than wait for them to all flower like I did last year and then missing some of them, I'm going to take a walk today and see if I can find any flowering plants, and then maybe take a few relatively close-up stroke macro images of those. Thanks for joining me. Hope you're going to enjoy it. Let's see what I can find. Well, that didn't take long. The first flower that I found here is a wild prickly pear. Look at those beautiful flowers. Unfortunately, the plant is not that healthy. You can see it's got a lot of cochineal on it, but also it's going to have a lot more flowers soon. So hopefully there'll be some fruit as well for the animals who so desperately need something to eat. But that's quite beautiful, the flower. Just look at that. Unfortunately, it's a little bit windy, and I was planning on not using a flash today, just tripod mounted shots. So I'm going to have to probably push up my ISO quite a bit to make sure I don't get any movement in the flowers. But let's see what I can do. You can see this is quite spectacular, beautiful, but I'm going to have to focus stack this a bit because I can't really go much above f8 due to the movement. I need to keep the shutter speed up. I'm running ISO 400 at the moment, f8, and I'll probably end up stacking about 3 images, I think. That is the furthest focus point. Then that is actually the very furthest for the background. Then the center of the flower, then round about the middle of the flower, and something like that, which gives me the flower petals closest to me. Let me take these images and see what I can get. I actually love this one as well, this prickly pear flower, specifically because it's not alone. You can see you've got the flower, and then you've got 2 more that will be the next flowers for I don't know how long, the next week or so I would assume. So I can probably try and make some kind of a composition here with a leading line with the small ones leading up to the larger one. But the colors are absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately, the wind is still there, but I'm just going to have to live with that. Look at this beautiful sample of the prickly pear flower. Absolutely gorgeous, with a few more flowers that'll probably bloom in the next few days. But I absolutely love the colors. Just hoping I can capture this with the movement. I'm not sure if I prefer the landscape orientation here for this image. Of course, it's more cropped on the video now because it's 16:9. Or if a portrait would maybe work, something like that, and then using the flower buds in the foreground as a foreground point of interest, and the very, very sharp, thick thorns, and then the flower in the background. I think I'm going to try it in portrait mode like this. Let's see what I can do. Oh, look at this cactus full of tiny little yellow flowers. Absolutely beautiful, and the whole area is covered with them. I think when they're in full flower it's going to be quite spectacular. Last year it was very dry and only a few of them flowered, but I can already see that a lot of them have started to flower now, so it's going to be quite spectacular. Well, I'm hoping I can stack this or stack the images today, because of the tiny amounts of movement due to wind. It might be a bit of an issue stacking. I might end up using a professional package like Helicon Focus, something like that, but hopefully I can get some good results. I also want to get some really close-ups of these tiny flowers, not just the whole image. So I'm going to try and get really close with a macro lens. I'm using a Sigma 150 f2.8 macro, so let's see what I can do with that. Now what we have here is what is called a spekboom. Translated, that would be a bacon tree. Don't know why they call it a bacon tree, because there's nothing bacon about it. But it is a huge carbon scrubber, and it generates a lot of oxygen. And you can actually eat it. The animals love it, and humans also. They use it in all kinds of salads, the leaves, and chutney and so on. And as you can see, it's got a lot of rather beautiful light pinkish flowers. Just look at the flowers. It's covered in them. Far more flowers than last year. I suppose the tiny bit of rain that we had in the last few days made a huge difference. Sitting on this rocky slope where, even though it doesn't always get rain, it does get some fog and condensation in the morning. But beautiful sample of the plant. And here you can see the actual flowers. They're absolutely tiny. Perfect for the macro lens. Well, I'm just taking a walk around here in this area. Got to be rather careful because it's rather rocky and there's no footpath here. Got to be very careful that you don't trip over something. But beautiful place. Lots of plants starting to flower. Mostly the cactus are in flower, and the spekboom, and of course the wild prickly pear. But I'm sure there'll be more in the next week or two, so it'll be worthwhile coming back. I'm here on the windward side of a rocky outcrop, specifically seeing if there's anything else that's flowering, but by the looks of it we only have basically 3 species flowering at the moment, unless I can find something else. But yes, I've got to be really cautious. Yeah, I've got to look down where I step all the time, because between the loose rocks, this is also a well-known area for snakes, so got to be extra careful. But yes, a very nice area to explore with a camera, specifically a macro lens here is also useful, because other than the flowers, of course, we've got the beautiful lichens, as you can see there on the trees. At the moment they're rather dry, but a tiny bit of rain and they change color completely. Look at this nice clump of flowering cacti. I'm showing you specifically this image because it shows a rather healthy plant, quite protected. But right in the middle you've got that one dead piece that is curved, which is makes a nice center point of interest. And then about 80% of the rest are flowering. But these are really tough conditions for the plants. I'm actually shooting this with a macro lens. I had to stand back probably about 5 or 6 meters. Probably don't need to stack this one. F8 ISO 400. I'll probably go maybe to, I'll probably end up going to about F10 to try and make sure I've got enough depth of field. Around about a 400th of a second. Clump of cacti all the same Noordsveld cactus in flower. They're actually against the side of this rocky hill. There's a lot of them here, and they all seem to be either in flower or getting ready to flower, so I think it's quite gorgeous. I think I can probably find a composition here. I love the rocks in the foreground, background, and then the flowers themselves make kind of a bracket, a U or a L, I should say, with the rocks in the middle with some lichen on them. So simple composition, nothing complicated, but shows the flowers rather well against the very harsh conditions. I'm here on the windward side of a rocky outcrop, specifically seeing if there's anything else that's flowering, but by the looks of it we only have basically 3 species flowering at the moment, unless I can find something else. But yes, I've got to be really cautious. Yeah, I've got to look down where I step all the time, because between the loose rocks, this is also a well-known area for snakes, so got to be extra careful. But yes, a very nice area to explore with a camera, specifically a macro lens here is also useful, because other than the flowers, of course, we've got the beautiful lichens, as you can see there on the trees. At the moment they're rather dry, but a tiny bit of rain and they change color completely. You just climb up this little side of the hill here. Let's see what's closer towards the top. More rocks and more rocks. I'm pretty sure I can find a composition here somewhere at sunrise. Look at these rocks with the red, brown, rusty colored lichen on them, and then the flowering cactuses in the foreground. So absolutely gorgeous. I don't think I've actually been here before, or to this exact spot anyway, so it was worth the explore. I know there's a shepherd's tree close by here that I've photographed on a couple of occasions, but this rocky ledge is actually special by itself. Still trying to get to the top of this little hill. I had to take a detour to get around a rather steep piece of rocks, rocky outcrop, stony ledge. Finally at the top. Let me see what is on the other side here. It's interesting, the other side is obviously doesn't get as much fog in the morning. This is now the side of the hill that's more inland, and obviously it doesn't get as much moisture as the side that faces the ocean. The side I just came from is actually the clouds rolling from the ocean, and then there's a lot of dew and condensation in this area, and you do get quite a bit of moisture in the mornings. Not specifically rain, but at least it's wet. So that's why the plants on the one side of the little hill are a lot greener and more luscious than on the other side. They're flowering. This side there's not much that's really flowering yet anyway. Trying not to fall while looking for flowers and other things of interest. In front there's a spot where I can see some bones lying. Don't know if you can see that. I see a couple of bones. Wonder what it was. By the size of the bones, it's probably something like a jackal, I would guess. But it was a long time ago. There's no fur left. There's a couple of rib bones, a couple of from the legs, and I see a couple of vertebrae from the back. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was something like a jackal that met its end over here. under this beautiful little shepherd's tree. Well, I'm going to take a slow walk back to the car, going around the other side of the hill from where I originally started. Maybe I'll find something else, but yes, this side of the hill is definitely a lot less lush than the other side, obviously a lot drier. It's amazing how in a couple of meters the vegetation can change so much. But yes, the cacti are still trying to flower over here, but they are not in such a good condition. Still some speckborn plants around here, but a nice little walk even if I don't find any other flowers. It's always nice taking a walk in nature and exploring. It's not that hot today, and I think when I got out of the car it was about 19 degrees Celsius, something like that, so that is actually quite convenient. I'd much prefer this round about, let's say, 18 to 22 than our more normal 32 to 42 this time of the year anyway. So yes, I found a tiny little, or small little footpath. I'm not sure, it's probably made by animals, so I'm just going to take that to cross the side of the ridge again and walk down to where I was parked. I actually think this is quite a nice little composition. The shepherd's tree, which is the main point of interest, but in the foreground we've got all those rocks, as you can see, running parallel, sticking out like that, and then in the background we've got a tiny hill, midground I should say, and in the background those beautiful mountains with the clouds rolling over them and some interest in the sky as well. So overall quite a nice little bonus image on my little flower shooting expedition. This just shows you should always look around. I came here armed with a macro lens to shoot some flowers, and then I look up and I see a rather nice landscape. Some nice bushes in the foreground, close by foreground, and then midground I've got that row of rocks sticking out, and then the main interest of course is the shepherd's tree just behind that, and then in the distance we've got some beautiful clouds rolling over the Bovihans mountains, and then of course there's some interest in the sky as well. A little bit of blue peeking out, but at least it's not just uniform grey, it's got some shape to it, and I quite like the foreground. I'm probably going to end up shooting at least 2 images for focus stacking purposes. Not exactly the right lens that I've got here, but let me see if I can produce an image with this. Well, I think this is it for me this morning. I had a nice little walk. I saw 3 different plants flowering. I found some nice rock formations, and a tree that I would like to shoot in the future as well, but specifically the rock formations along with some of the plants would work well for a sunrise or a sunset, so I just need one of those now. But I really appreciate you joining me again on my little adventure today. If you liked it, please click like, I would really appreciate that, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. If you want any more details on my images, photos, look in the description below. Thanks for joining me, have a great day and stay safe.